New angle, terrible lighting. What else is new? I just wanted to quickly throw this in there and say I'm sorry about last week's video for being so long. How this video is not an art video. I still am desperately unsure about art right now, and I need to kind of freak out for a little bit. But I also wanted to say sorry about the background music in the last video that I made. It's kind of loud in some spots, and I didn't catch that. Sorry. This will be better. This will be better, I promise. Colton, why do you swim like in the exact same pattern over and over again? It's been like 2 days and you keep doing the same pattern. There's something wrong? Are you unhappy? Is it just a weird fish thing? Hello? Welcome back to another video that nobody asked for. Today I wanted to talk about this specific series of books that I just finished reading. We have in our unfortunate possession Dragon's Gold, Serpent Silver, Chimera's Copper, Orc's Opal, and Movar's Magic. So these books are written by, I'm staring directly at the name and I can't even read it, Pierce Anthony and Robert E. Margrove. I don't know who Robert E. Margrove is, but I did look up Pierce Anthony. He's 87 years old. So part of me feels like I should be a little bit more generous with this opinion I have about this series. And another part of me is like, whatever, he's never gonna see it anyway, so let's just... Alright, so this series, these five books are about this kid named Kelvin, like Kevin, but with an L, because it's fantasy. And in the first book, I started reading I read the first and second and half of the third book when I was in the hospital for my sigmoid colectomy. Like I mentioned before, it was from the library. Nobody wanted it, so I bought it for $1. That's pretty good. And so when I was sick there, I said, hey mom, can you bring me this specific book? Because as you can see, it's a big boy because it has 3 books in it. So I started reading it and was immediately encountered with the fact that this was not going to be the best fantasy book that I've ever read, to say the least. The writing is clunky. I wish I had written down notes. I really do, so that I could give a better review of these books. But the writing is extremely clunky, and it starts off with this brother-sister going into dragon territory to get dragon scales to help pay off the debts of the farm that they're on or something. And the dad of these kids was, okay, how to describe this? So this book series is all about parallel universes. They call them frames, so like parallel frames or whatever. So the dad of these 2 kids came from the Earth frame and met a woman in the frame that this takes place of, and they fell in love and had children, and now the book starts with those 2 children going to get dragon scales to get money. There's this prophecy about a round deer. Let me see if I can find it. It's so stupid. This is so stupid. I hate this. A round deer there shall surely be, born to be strong, raised to be free, fighting dragons in his youth, leading armies, nothing loth, ridding his country of a sword, joining 2, then uniting 4, until from 7 there be 1, only then will his task be done, honored by many, cursed by few, all will know what round deer can do. So that's like the prophecy, and in every single book, it is at least expressed twice. I also have to mention that there are moments where they immediately tell you what has just happened after it has just happened, like a synopsis, and it's really annoying. Yeah, so the first book, he kills a dragon because he's the round ear of prophecy, because he's got round ears, and his sister has pointed ears because in the frame that this takes place in, they have pointed ears, and it's really weird that he's got round ears, but his dad was from Earth and they have round ears. And he gets a gauntlet from this prophesied god alien creature thing named Movar, and he fights armies, and then I think he unites like maybe one of the kingdoms with the other kingdoms. I don't remember. weird. And then the second book, he had his half-brother because he had a half-brother with the main evil lady from the first book, Zoanna. Kelvin's dad married her. She was the evil ruler that they overthrew in the first book. And now the stepbrother, Kelvin's stepbrother from the Earth dude, and Zoanna, he transports to another frame with Kelvin and their dad. I'm just gonna call the Earth guy their dad, just dad, because his name is John, but they also name Kelvin's sister John, but without the H. It's really weird. I don't know why they did that. It's very confusing because when you're like reading really fast and your brain just sees a J in the end and it's like, oh, it's John. It's like, wait, why is the dad wearing a skirt or a bra? Why are we talking about his luscious curves? That's another thing about these books is there are great details about women's bodies and their curves and their ideal looks. Of course. It's fantasy written by a man in the 80s. Of course it's gonna be a lot about that. No shit, Sherlock. But they go to like another frame where there's serpents and they overthrow the evil dictator in that frame. They think, and Zoanna is there, but it's not her because they're in a parallel universe, so it's a parallel person, and her personality is completely opposite of the evil Queen Zoanna. And in this frame, her name is Zanana. There's going to be a pattern of this, by the way, of Z names, and I'll get there. So her name is Zanana, and her father's name is Xananas, and in the dragon frame where they're originally from, it's Zoanna and Zatanus. Alright, yeah. Really nice. There's also things like in the dragon frame where they're from. I'm gonna just start saying dragon frame. So first book, dragon frame, there's a character named Moore Crumb who helps them with the army to defeat Zoanna. And in the serpent frame, the second book, there's Matthew Bread. And there's a lot of that. Little name tweaking, and it's really confusing. Anyways, so once the serpent frame, they have to get rid of their dictator Rowforth. And in the dragon frame, his name is Rutforth, but he's good. The second frame, he's bad, and so they have to defeat him. And I honestly don't remember how they do that because I was on a lot of pain medication. But somehow he survives and he gets into the dragon frame, and then Zoanna is alive, and then they get together because they're both sadistic weirdos, and there's a lot of really explicit sex scenes, which is kind of gross because ew. Anyway, so then the third book happens. Oh, and I forgot to mention this. Kayan. He decides to stay in the serpent frame because he falls in love with Lonnie, who is a duplicate of Leslie in the dragon flame, but Lonnie's good. So he decides to go back and marry her, and then we never see Kayan ever again. Maybe a serpent ate him. Who knows? He doesn't matter. So yeah, that was the second book, pretty much. And of course, you get the little prophecy, the rounder could do this, sloth and not, and then in the third book, they go... Oh, I mixed things up. It's the third book where they go... No, I didn't mess things up. It's so confusing. It's like the writing is so not something that I enjoyed reading, and the plot is kind of really dumb, but trying to explain it is really hard because it's so ridiculous that no matter how I'm trying to, like, form my words, it's just not coming out right. So the third one... Kayan, Kelvin, and Dad are going to go to the serpent frame so Kayan can get married. And I forgot to mention they use transporters that Movar made. This mystical illusionary Movar who had this prediction of a round year and gave Kelvin these magic gauntlets so that he could fight wars and be a war hero. And Kelvin the whole time's like, I'm a coward. I don't want to do that. I don't want to shed blood. And so in the third book, they go there, but instead of going to where they wanted to go, which was a serpent's frame, they go into the Chimera's frame. So now we're on book 3, Chimera's copper, because the Chimera is made of copper and spouts electricity because it's copper. They get put in jail, and then they get out of jail because the Chimera wants Kelvin to go back to his dragon frame to get dragonberries. Okay, so dragonberries. They mean a lot in the first 3 books, and then in the last 2, it's like, fuck it, who cares about that? So these dragonberries, if pointed-eared people eat them, they die. But if they're round-eared people, it makes them astral project. Staying with me? Good. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I think in the second book, Helm, Kelvin's wife, because Kelvin gets married at the beginning of the second book, but it's like off-screen marriage. saying? He's married, and she has round ears too, because she's the daughter of one of the friends of Dad who came from Earth, because Dad from Earth was the commander of a platoon that was doing like an atomic bomb testing thing, but like a dead bomb, not like a real active bomb, and they accidentally got hit with the fake bomb, and then they fell through the flaw, which is the rip through all the universes, and they arrived in the Dragon Frame. Caught up? Good. Helen can astral project and see things and all that jazz. And so they figure out the dragonberries, and the Chimera's like, I want to do that too, because I'm really bored, and I'm the last one of my species, and I'm really sad, but not really sad, more just really curious. So go back to your frame, give me dragonberries so I can go wherever I want, because the people in this frame who have square ears won't let me leave. So Kelvin's like, yes, I will return with those dragonberries, and in return you shall release my father and my my half-brother. Stepbrother? Half-brother? Doesn't matter. Oh, one of my bookmarks just fell out. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so he goes back, and then there's this witch named Melba who's really evil, and she's threatening to destroy. I forgot to mention, once he got oh my god. So there's Rudd, where he's from, and then there's Artax, and when his army invaded Artax, and I think Kingland and Cants, beautiful names, they're run by two twin kinglets that were born on leap year, so they only age every 4 years, but like their bodies only age every 4 years, but their minds are like aging every year, so they're like mentally older than they are. It doesn't fucking matter. It really doesn't. They suck and they're worthless, and their kingdoms work together. Whatever. So Melba's there, so he has to defeat Melba, and he uses the newly formed Kelvin land, I think it's called. Kelvania. They renamed Rudd and Artax, and then the two kings' kingdom Kelvania after Kelvin, because he's the prophesied hero or some bullshit like that. Or maybe it's called the Confederation after they get the twins' kingdom. I don't understand. I really don't. I have no idea. And apparently the kings are like the actual king, and so the king of Rudd is like just not a king. He's just like a nice jolly fat man who hangs out all day in his palace, and he doesn't really matter after the first book. The end. Is Zoanna still in this book too? Somehow, someway. So Kelvin's wife, Helen, gets pregnant, and some evil witch warlock, who cares the fuck, it doesn't matter, curses her to give birth to a chimera. So a three-headed monster, one head would be a woman, the other head would be a man, and third head would be a dragon. And that's what the chimera is too in the last fucking book. Chimeras. So she's gonna give birth to a chimera. But then, at the last minute, Mervania, who's the female head of the Chimera in the Chimera frame, gives Kelvin a powder, and he makes his wife drink the powder, and then she has her babies, but instead of having a Chimera, she has triplets, and one is a woman, or girl, the other one's a boy, and the other one's a dragon. And the girl looks like Mervania, the female head from Copper World. The man looks like Merton, who's the Chimera's head in the Copper World. And his name is Charles, and the girl's name is... I just did my makeup too. That's why I don't wear makeup, because I just rub my face in frustration, and then it gets everywhere, and then I look like a trash panda. I can never win. Merlane is the baby girl. She looks like Mervania from the Copper World. Charles looks like Martin from the Copper World, and then the dragon Horus looks like the dragon from the Copper World. And the Chimera is like one body, it has those heads, but then the body's like a crab, and then the tail's like a scorpion. So Helen would have given birth to that, but then the power saved her at the last minute, so then she just had triplets, and the copper dragon, slithers. It's really gross. He slithers out, and then he slithers over the castle walls, and then he just disappears. And then it's like, alright, bye. Who cares? And then Helen's like, I refuse to believe that I gave birth to a dragon. And Kelvin's like, it happened. I was there. It's pretty weird, but I'll humor you, because you're a woman. And women are soft and stupid and have no importance in my book unless they're naked or they're evil or they have some sex appeal. Because that's just how this book works. And this one too. Anyway, so at the end, the babies are born and everything's fine. And then that was the first 3 books. And then I think they also get, maybe it's Kingland and Cants that get put into, join the Confederation in this book. Or maybe it's the second book. I don't know. These books are written it's the next day in the next book. Not oh, it's been this amount of time. it's just like the next day. Really confusing. And there's one specific thing, there's a few specific things about all these books that I just can't stand, but I will talk about them at the very end. At the end, save the best anger for last. So yeah, that's how this ends. Okay, and then we have this one. So this one contains Orc's Opal and Movar's Magic. Ooh, fun. And of course, it starts off with the prophecy, because why wouldn't we? And then we spend a whole, 5 pages just recapping everything that happened in the last book, because why wouldn't we? And at this point, the half-brother is gone, just gone. And Zoanna, the original baddie of everything, and Ralforth, the second baddie of everything, they're dead, all right? They're gone. They're dead. And Melba, the evil witch, is dead. But Melba came from a different frame, so she, snuck into the dragon frame. And the good witch version of her is named Helba, and she lives in the dragon frame. So Melba, from another frame, came to Helba's frame. And the names are just so clever. So this is where we get our first time jump, is an Orc's Opal. They skipped 6 years ahead. So Kelvin's twin children, who are also telepathic, have telepathy. I said that right. They got that ability from the Chimera, when the Chimera gave the powder. And they can talk to the dragon Horus, and so they hang out with Horus in the dragon territory. And it's just a grand old time. And then this really frustrating thing happens, where Helba, the good witch, is invited to a congratulations Helba convention, where she is the guest of honor. Why does every other warlock and witch in any other frame would give an actual fuck about defeating Zoanna and Zatannis and Ralforth? I don't know. Oh, and Melba too. She defeated Melba as well. I don't know why they would care, at all. Anyways, so they go to this convention, and the convention is held, and by they, I mean Helba, Kelvin, his children, his wife, his sister, and then the 2 young kings from Kingland and Kance, and they suck. So they all go, and the convention is held at a mall. We spend good 3 chapters just talking about the mall and the different stores and getting clothes, and talking about the other convention goers and how they look, and how many of them don't wear clothes, men and women. But of course we don't talk about the men without clothes. We have to talk about women without their clothes in very close detail. Yikes. And then they this is where Orc's Opal is where the stupid names for shit, like squirberts instead of squirrels, and googles instead of geese. I'm not making those up. Those are actually the names of them. And one of the ones that made me so fucking mad, and it didn't bother me until this book, because in the other books, it was just oh, there's this little thing. But in this book, there's a dragon who likes to eat these things, and so they're mentioned a lot. Usually because the dragon eats it rotten. He likes to eat rotten meat. They call deer mere. And it's so infuriating. And I don't know why. So in this book, I've just had a nice big pen and wrote a D over all the M's because I just couldn't take it. So going on the path of stupid names as well. This author, was oh, we're in a magic world and we're in parallel worlds to other worlds. How are we going to distinguish that this is a parallel world to our own world? I know! We'll rename it, but only replace the first name of things with the letter Z. So instead of Macy's, they shop at Zayce's. And it's J.Z. Zenning, not J.C. Penney. And it's Zopco, not Shopko. I don't even know if people even know what Shopko is anymore. Anyway, so it's the worst. It's so bad. It's so bad. They leave the kids at basically a McDonald's kiddie place. Well, the adults go off on their own merry little way. But there's this evil witch named Zadie with a Z, and Zadie with a Z trades bodies with Kelvin's sister John. The sister John, not the dad John, the sister John. And she gets invisibility cloaks for Kelvin's daughter and son, and the 2 kinglets. They call them kinglets. I'm just gonna call them kinglets because I don't care. So she gets them invisibility cloaks and then enchants them to do mischief and to steal stuff. And the kings go around goosing the girls. and pinching bottoms and sneaking into places where people are having sex. And it's so exciting that we have to describe it in great detail. And then Kelvin's son Charles steals a sword with a face on it. And then Merlane, his daughter, steals Alice water, which, yes, refers to Alice in Wonderland, and when it is drunk, the drinker becomes big. That's important because it's basically the only thing that they steal that's useful for the rest of the whole book is the Alice water. And so then Zadie, looking like their Aunt John, makes them go back to the dragon frame so they can go to the orcs' territory, Offal, more like awful, and steal this magic opal that allows you to jump wherever you want at any frame you want at any given time without any consequence whatsoever. And she says, oh, you should steal this opal. It would make Helba really happy. So go ahead, steal it, and then bring it back. But the whole entire thing is that, no, Zadie's going to take the opal from the kids, and she's going to be all powerful. And so there's this long, arduous trek of these 6-year-olds. Basically, even the kings are like 6 years old, but in their mind, they're like 20 or something, but they don't act like it because they're the worst. And they have to go travel over like 2 territories to the swamp place where the orcs are. And the orcs look like this. So don't think Lord of the Rings. Think this. Fish monster. And apparently this is Zadie, and this is Kelvin, and this is the opal. For some reason, when I was reading the book, I thought the opal was going to be super shiny. Excuse me. I'm recording right now. Do you mind? Oh my god. I thought it was going to be like a shiny gem like diamonds. I don't know why I didn't think of it. It's like this round thing. Anyway. So, they get it, and then they bring it back, and then, oh, I wish I'd taken notes, but it's such a blur at this point, and it's so bad at this point that it's just not worth it. Somehow, the 4 children are on a cliff, and Kelvin is there because he got 12-league boots from Movar, so he can take a step and like go 12 leagues or whatever, go wherever he wants, so he just walk all over everything. And he shows up and he saves his daughter from falling off a cliff, because Zadie makes her walk off a cliff, and then his son takes his dad's sword and cuts Zadie's head off, and it rolls off the edge of a cliff, only to be caught by an egok. Yes, an egok. Instead of an eagle, they're called egoks. I hate it and I want to die. And then he puts his and then the son puts his magic sword in the witch's blood, and then the sword turns into a girl named Glow, and then he falls in love with her, and they're both 6, and it's weird. Anyway, so the book ends with nobody knowing where Zadie's head is, and they worry about it. Oh, and Horus the dragon swallows the opal. And so now he's considered like the actual high king of all of the Alliance, and yes, it's now called the Alliance. They changed it from Kelvania to Confederation to Alliance. They just can't decide on what fucking name to stay with. Alright, and at this point now there's 5 of the 7 kingdoms. Remember that whole entire like make 7 into 1 bullshit that was the prophecy or whatever. So now there's 5 kingdoms that are all together in one, and they're all like, yeah, we're part of this alliance, or fuck it. And then the orcs are like, yeah, we don't like you, we don't want to be part of anything, but sure, we'll join, why not? So Horus swallows the opal, so now he can just jump wherever the hell he wants. And they can't get it out of him without killing him. So he's just named Supreme Ruler, and he's a dragon, and he likes to eat rotten mirror. Then the book ends. And then the last book takes place 20 years later. And this is now getting to some more of the stuff that I hate. Like, I hate this whole series, but... So, in the first 3 books, Kelvin is like 17. Alright, let's do the math. 17 plus 6. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Plus 20 years. 43, alright? In the last book, it specifically says that he is in his late 50s. And I don't know how that's possible. What happened? What happened to those, like, 15 years that he's experienced, but it's... What? What? This book is so frustrating. This whole series is so frustrating. Why did I bother reading this? Why did I pay $18 for both of these books? I hate myself, hate it, and I want to die. So he's old now, and then Helpa uses magic to put him back into shape. And then throughout the entire book, it talks about how, oh, he's back in shape. Oh, he lost weight. Not helpful at all. Anyway, I finished this book yesterday, and I still don't know what the fuck happened at the end. Zadie's body grows back, but only her lower half, and her upper half just gets like really, like her head is like really nasty and haggy, but her lower body's like so sexy, and we have to go into extreme detail about how sexy she is, and it's just so enthralling. And she declares war on everybody, and then she like gets mercenaries from Thrud, which is one of the kingdoms that's not part of the Alliance but is in the Dragon Frame. And their whole thing is mercenaries, and their like kingdom has the flaw, you know, the flaw that goes through all the parallel universes or what the fuck ever. So she gets mercenaries, and she uses magic, and she gets all these people who use malignant magic to fight the people who use the benign magic, and it's just this long war, and it doesn't make any sense. And Kelvin rides his dragon son Horus, and they opal around and try to catch Zadie because she's a bird now, and it goes on for a really long time. And then there's more fighting, and then there's more sex between Zadie and this Professor Duval, who is just Satan, straight up just Satan. They fight, and then Kelvin gives like his weapons that Movar has given him. Like he gives the gauntlet to his son, and then like this levitation belt to like someone else, and then like this anti-magic gun that shoots magic back to the sender to someone else, and then they all get split up because Zadie steals them all and captures them, and then all the telepathy doesn't work, and then the dragon is what they need, and Zadie wants the dragon for the opal, and then the dragon falls in love with another dragon, and then they constantly have sex. And then it ends by the dragon and Kelvin chasing Zadie back to like a underwater transporter, because remember Movar built the transporters, and they transport to hell, basically. It's like a giant school run by Duval, and he's chasing her, and she's like, Professor, help me. Yeah, but help me! Oh, I forgot to mention, Thrud also gets removed off the map, off the face of the earth. She has this Duval guy use his power to just destroy an entire city. So Thrud gets lifted up into the sky and then pops out of existence. And in its place is just all the forest, the trees, and the flaw, and the rivers as they naturally had been if there had never been a Thrud whatsoever. That means that now instead of 8 kingdoms, Thrud went away, so now there's 7. And if you remember the prophecy, which is told to you in every single chapter, when 7 become 1, the Rounder's work is done. So now there's only 7 kingdoms. And the last kingdom right in the middle of this battle that we're fighting with Zadie, like, walks over to the kinglet's palace, and they're like, hey, yeah, we'd like to join your alliance. And they're like, ah, sweet, sick. Do you swear it? And I say, yeah, we swear it. And then they're like, cool. And so now they're part of the alliance, and oh, look at that. 7 are 1, and but ends with Horus chopping off Zadie's head, and then her head flies through the air and gets stuck on Professor Duval's one of his horn spikes, and then her body is just like ripped apart by the dragon. But of course that won't kill her because you have to burn witches, because, you know, that cliche isn't exhausted. And so like this devil's like Professor Duval, Satan, is like boogity 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 boo with some magic at Horus and Kelvin, and then Kelvin whips out the anti-magic gun and points at him and shoots it, and then the I'm going to completely destroy you, and you, as if you never existed, the same way that I made Thrud never exist, magic gets shot back to Satan and Zadie's head, and so they pop out of existence completely, and they will never show up ever again. And in the last chapter, Movar shows up. This little sneaky son of a gun shows up and is like, oh yes, this whole time has been a game between me and Duval. It's kind of like chess. I forgot to mention there's like this really weird running gag about chess throughout like book 3 and 4 and 5, I suppose. Yeah, and 5. It's just a running gag of like chess and playing chess and the chessboard pieces and like people that you sacrifice to win and that kind of trope. So he's like, Movar shows up to Kelvin. He's like, oh yes, we were playing a game this whole time over millennia, and I won this round, and Duval will win next round because that's how it goes. And I'm gonna like be weak, and he's gonna be strong next time, and there's like nothing that can be done about that. And in the next prophecy, all 7 kingdoms, or all like that one kingdom, the alliance will break up into 7, and that'll be the end of the prophecy, and Duval would have won. And then it flips back to Movar, and then he will win, and then it goes just back and forth. So this whole time, all this bloodshed, all this garbage, all this hot steaming garbage is because these 2 powerful people, basically God and Satan, were like, let's play chess. And then at the very end, Mover's like, I erase your memory of using all of the tools that I gave you, prophesied hero. That I prophesied, but I kind of didn't prophesy. I just prophesied that someone with round ears would be able to defeat all the evil, and it just happened to be you. So that's cool. Not really thinking that through all the way, I guess. So he forgets everything, and then he goes back to his family, and they're sitting around having a picnic with all the people, and he's talking to his wife, and she's like, yeah, I don't know how you won against all those things that, like, apparently when Mover said, I'm removing your memory of all the tools I used, apparently that applied to everyone. So now everyone's just, like, mystified about this Kelvin dude who was able to do all these things seemingly by magic because they don't remember him having any tools to have done these things. He just did them. And now he can't. And the book ends with these words. It was, most obviously, a wonderful time for young and old and those in between. A near-perfect time had dawned for those present and many not present. It was a great fine time for the Alliance. And that's it! 800 pages! That's it. Oh, I can't. I'm wearing makeup so I can't rip my eyeballs out. But I really want to. I guess the last thing that I'll just mention, besides all... Oh, and I forgot to mention as well, there's this warlock that's in love with Helba for some God knows what reason, because she's just, you know what, I'm not gonna judge. He's in love with her, and he's a master of escape and hiding, but mostly escape things. Guess what his name is? It's Zudini. Not Houdini, but Zudini. Because everything has to start with a Z. Everything. Otherwise... what the fuck are we even doing, Piers Anthony? Everything has to start with a Z. My last gripe, this one that I got, the last 2 books, there's only 1 copy online, and I got it. It is, let me show you something here. So, you see right here, there it is, that striped yellow and red, that is a binding. That is a binding for a hardcover book. If you look at this one, no binding. It's just the book. This is the only copy I could get anywhere. And it doesn't have any barcode, has this little number. So this is either a book club edition or an advanced reader's copy. And all the way throughout this book, there were so many grammatical errors, name errors, where suddenly somebody was somebody else, paragraphs that repeated, like the same paragraph was like twice in a row, or the same sentence was twice in a row, words that were missing letters on them. And there was an entire paragraph that was lifted from the second book and just smashed into the 5th book. And I would not have noticed it except for it mentioned silver serpents. And it was like, oh, the fuck? What? So I was already suffering. And then I get this book. And I suffered even more. It was so hard to get through. Oh my gosh. I never filmed an outro. So here's one now. If you hear that sound in the background, that is my computer trying to fly away. It's learning to fly. Thanks for watching. Kind of a rambly video. It's kind of an incoherent video, but then again, the books were kind of incoherent, so it kind of matches. I'm going to spend forever now editing this video. Next week will be art stuff, I promise. Alright, bye!